Okay. The Masked Man here, Mr. Masked Man on YouTube here for another SNL review. Now, I didn't intend to do this review. I really intended to simply do Donald Trump um on SNL, but fortunes would have it that I was able to catch Elizabeth Banks hosting SNL, so I figured, why the hell not? Might as well do it again. So Elizabeth Banks opens up the show, and her monologue was her doing a song. But the funny thing about her doing a song was that she was directing or producing the show while she was singing the song. She was having stars flash, she was cueing dancers, she was getting on treadmills, and I came in halfway through the sketch, but from what I could tell, it was entertaining. It was something decent for somebody who was not a comedian. It was a decent way to open up the show. It was a decent monologue. I think it was fine. Um, and I really think it was acceptable. It was quite acceptable. The next thing they had, I'm checking my notes. I don't know how the YouTubers do it, but I'm trying to, stop these 30-minute videos. The next sketch was the Black Jeopardy sketch. And this is this is this is a sketch that is not that it's so bad, because the thing about SNL is that it's not that it's horrible. It's not horrible and it's not good, but it's just bad enough to make you feel like they don't give a fuck. That's the problem with SNL. It's like it just makes you feel like they don't really give a damn about what they present. It's like when you have a show like Black Jeopardy, and this is a sketch that you've done for a little while. This is a sketch that you've done for some time. There's a lot of different ways you can go with it. And the fact that they go the same way all the time with the sketch, it gets to the point where you're just like, you motherfuckers don't give a damn, do you? You motherfuckers aren't even trying to get a laugh or push the envelope. You just phoning it in. You're just phoning it in, and it's hard to respect you for that. It was the typical stereotypical jokes about uh, um black people having poor grammar, um black people being um shiftless. It was because of the kinds of questions that they asked. It shouldn't be called Black Jeopardy. It should be called Ghetto Jeopardy. That should have been the name of it, Ghetto Jeopardy, instead of Black Jeopardy, because just to switch it up. Um, at the end of the segment, at the end of the skit, the white lady won because she fell into a position of hopelessness, and she didn't feel that she could win, and she said so. And her saying that gave her all the points, and she won the game. Which is fine, because the segment is stupid anyway. And I think that they would be much better off just resurrecting Dave Chappelle's "I Know Black People" sketch, getting real people, you know, people from the audience, But you can't tape a segment with SNL. Everything has to be live, supposedly. So I think they would have been just much better getting three audience members and just having a 2 minute segment with them than this bullshit that they did um with the Black Jeopardy. I think this is a skit. This is one of the many bits that needs to die. It's 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 just annoying. They had another Bill Cosby. They did another hit at Bill Cosby, and that was a low blow. Um, the next thing they did was they had five female cast members talk about the first time that they got horny. And honestly, this skit made me a little uncomfortable. And if that was the goal, to make the viewer uncomfortable, then I guess that's fine. They succeeded. All gravy. You did a good job, but it made me a little uncomfortable because all of the women were grown. All of the women were 30 or older that was in the sketch, or they looked 30 or older. But they were reminiscing about the first time they got horny, and they had on clothes and they had mannerisms of girls that were 10, 11, 15 years old. And these 10, 11, 15-year-old girls that they were pretending to be, even though it was the same woman, they were grinding on the couch and they were touching themselves, and they were doing things that people may consider to be inappropriate. And that just, and then it just didn't sit well with me. Honestly, it didn't sit well that these women were having flashbacks to their younger selves, grinding on couches and grinding on the floor. And it wasn't a particularly funny sketch. The only thing that was, kind of a joke, well, there were three jokes. The one joke was the woman said she knew that she was gay when she was attracted to Hanson. That was an attempt to be funny. The other joke was the woman who was attracted to the boys who were murderers. And the other joke was that some chick was attracted to a dinosaur. So those were kind of the only jokes in the skit, and none of them were funny. The next sketch they did was about a stage play. And this was a skit that I actually thought was a little bit edgy when I was first watching it, because it really showed how people pander to the gay community, to get money. They pander to the gay community to get support. They pander to the gay community to get attention. And this sketch kind of made fun of that. They had a number of things in the sketch. They had two pairs of men get up and say, if you have a problem with this, you're small-minded. And then they got up and they said, they greeted each other by, hi, boyfriend. And the other one, hi, boyfriend. And they kissed. And then they said, scene, or something like that. So it was like, if you have a problem with this, there's something wrong with you. Then McKinnon and his white wife, in the skit, picked up the program and said all proceeds will go to Neil Patrick Harris. And they was like, he doesn't need that. Then Elizabeth Banks in the skit, she asked the audience, Keenan in particular, do you think I'm a girl or a boy? And he said, judging by this play, I would say you're a boy. And then he said, can you say girl? Then he said that, and and she was like, wrong. Fast forward, there was a seat reserved for Caitlyn Jenner, and that was pretty much the skit. It was, I think it was kind of a clever skit. I think it was kind of a clever bit. Then next thing you had was the musical act named Disclosure. I think that's the name of it. It wasn't as good as last week's guest, Sia. I don't know if the female vocalist was a part of the band or who she was, but she wasn't very good. Moving on, you had Weekend Update, which is my favorite part of Saturday Night Live. It's the one that I like the most. And they talked about a number of things, but they devoted a lot of time to a particular story about a Houston equal rights bill. And if I haven't said this before, I'm going to say it again. It's scenes like this, it's episodes like this, it's bits like this is the reason why I have a problem with television, the reason why I have a problem with media as a whole. I can understand you having a point of view. I can understand you having an opinion. I can understand you having facts that you want to relay. I can understand you having that you making judgments. I can understand all of that. And you have a right to say whatever you feel that you need to say. But this skit talked about, now in case you don't know the story, according to Weekend Update, and I haven't heard the story anywhere else. I didn't even know this was a thing. But in Houston, they're striking down a bill, or they struck down a bill that would allow transgenders to use the restroom of the gender that they identify with. And Pete Davidson came out and he made this whole to-do about men would be unwilling to have surgeries and take hormones and come out to their parents and go through all of the hell that you would have to go through to live that lifestyle just to go into a woman's restroom. And I have to say that if you listen to it the way that he said it, he's correct. Nobody would go through all of that just to use a female's restroom. But to play devil's advocate, since this television show seems to have no desire to be balanced in having an argument, let's mention somebody who was brought up earlier in the same show, that you're a part of. Let's bring up Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner is a transgender who identifies as a woman, who has had no surgeries to speak of. Caitlyn Jenner is, as of the recording of this video, has made no announcement, has had no surgeries to give himself a makeshift vagina. So Caitlyn Jenner still has a penis and balls, but Caitlyn Jenner identifies as a transgender, and nobody from the transgender community, nobody from the LGBTQ is arguing with Caitlyn Jenner identifying as a transgender. And Caitlyn Jenner not only has not had surgeries and has not taken hormones, and I think the only surgery that Caitlyn has had is breast implants. So, and maybe a little plastic surgery, facial, surgery, neck surgery. But Caitlyn Jenner has not had, a surgery to turn his outie into an innie Caitlyn Jenner has not only not done that, but Caitlyn Jenner still considers himself attracted to women. So Caitlyn Jenner is a transgender who has not had any sort of surgery, who is attracted to women, is a man who sees himself as a woman and is attracted to other women. So, and Caitlyn Jenner is not rare in that respect. It's not as if that is a rare occurrence in the transgender community. It's not rare that somebody will identify as a man or identify as a woman and be attracted to the opposite sex, the sex opposite of their birth gender. Their the what would be homosexuality for how they identify, but heterosexuality for their biology. So why wasn't this mentioned inside of this scathing repudiation of anybody who would have a problem with the transgender in their bathroom? Now, you may say, Mass Man, what do you think? Are you saying that transgenders shouldn't be allowed to use the restroom that they identify with? Well, I think I'm saying that I don't know. I think I'm saying that there has to be more deliberation. There has to be more debate. There has to be a greater transparency on all of the evidence. I think that there would be problems from men and women who simply consider themselves to be homosexual going in the restroom that they want to go into. Like, take RuPaul. RuPaul is a drag queen. He is gay, but he's a drag queen. But he don't dress up like that unless he getting that paper. But when he is dressed up like that, he has a long wig and makeup and a dress, and it's a sight to see. But he identifies himself as a gay man. But if you saw RuPaul in all of that outfit in the men's room, that may make men in the men's room very uncomfortable. I think that RuPaul in that outfit needs to be in the ladies' room. Honestly. Now, he don't consider himself a transgender, but that may cause, I'm not saying anybody's going to do anything to him, because I don't think that they will. I'm just saying that to keep off confusion, it may be better for him just going in there. And the same thing with a woman, who has a beard, who's wearing a suit, who's very, butch, a butch lesbian, but that doesn't see herself as a man. She's just butch. And she's just walking in the women's room with her Timberlands and her hats, with all that swagger. Like, that may make some of the women in there uncomfortable. So I think that those kinds of conversation, like transgenders joining the Girl Scouts, or transgenders being in the restroom or playing certain sports, I think that there needs to be a more honest back and forth dialogue where people are not accusatory of bigotry, but that we can just sort out what's the proper action that a person would need to take. That's all I'm saying on that subject. The last part in weekend update was I think her name is Kate McKinnon, playing a Russian lady. And when she showed up and did this bit, that made me feel how long this bit was. It felt so long when she showed up. It felt really, really long. And I was so irritated by how unnecessary her presence was. The thing that makes Weekend Update work is Colin Jost and Michael Che. Them reading the stories and quipping back and forth between each other. The cast members who come in and try to be funny fail most of the time. And the act is very, very weak. It's not worth having so many cast members become a part of it. I feel like they're coming in and they're sucking up and eating up time because Colin Jost and Michael Che did such a good job making that Weekend Update segment popular again, that now they want to squeeze as many cast members into that bit as they can to sort of get some more shine for themselves. And I think they need to limit the people's time who come on there to 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds to be funny, then you got to get the fuck on, because we ain't got time for that around here. It's like, this is our segment. Colin Jost and Michael Che are not even a part of any other sketch in the show. They don't do any sketches. They do Weekend Update and they go home. They don't have any other sketches, any other bits, any other airtime. That is the only thing they get to do in the whole show. So if that's all they're gonna get, then let's let them have that, and let's surround it with them. Give them more leeway. Let them go off of book a little bit more. Make it more about them and less about those cast members doing those bad impressions. I don't give a fuck if they've always done that shit. Stop it now. Okay. I'm checking my notes. Next, they did a Ben Carson sketch. They mentioned a bunch of dumb things that Ben Carson said, or things that they consider to be dumb. One thing I want to mention from the sketch is that Shashir was the only thing I could think of during the sketch was that Shashir is too pretty to be his wife. She's too pretty to be his wife. She's too pretty to play Ben Carson's wife. They should have got Leslie to play Ben Carson's wife. But when Leslie came out as Ben Carson's mother, I said, okay, they really don't have enough black women in the show to justify, make it like they didn't have enough black women. They only got 2 black women. So I guess if you had to break it down, that's the only way you could do it. Now, you could have had Keenan come up in drag and play Ben Carson's mom, because Keenan ain't afraid to get in drag, but he was playing Jesus, and they don't let Michael Che. Well, no. I'm sorry. He was playing Black Jesus, and they went out of their way to make sure that you knew that he was playing Black Jesus, not Jesus who just happened to be black, but he was Black Jesus, because you know the real Jesus ain't black, according to SNL. But unless they was gonna have Michael Che play Jesus, there was no way that any of that would have worked. So I didn't really have a huge problem with it. The next thing they had was a sketch with Bobby Moynihan, and he played a guy who got the opportunity to be a part of an SVU-like show. And they told him that he would just have one line where he walked on to a show and he would get featured prominently on the show as an extra. But it turns out that he was a perpetrator in the show, who was a pervert who did some kind of crime, and it turns out that his job in real life is a middle school principal or a middle school teacher. And I actually kind of like this sketch. Now, I know a lot of people probably don't or wouldn't like this sketch, but I actually kind of liked it because I can see why somebody would be so uncomfortable doing this sketch or being a part of a show that painted them as a pervert, even if it was in a fictional show. Because as some of you may not know now, if you're watching the video about SNL, I don't know if you're black or not, because I don't think a lot of black people watch SNL. But there was a story of a black police officer in some town, I can't remember, but she was a police officer, and she lost her job as a police officer because she did porn years before, like 4 or 5 years before she ever became a police officer, before she took the test, before she took the oath. She did some porn. And I don't want to tell on myself too much, but this woman wasn't no porn star. She may have did porn, and it may exist, and it may be out there somewhere that somebody can find, but this woman wasn't no porn star. This woman didn't have any kind of name in the porn industry. She wasn't no Cherokee. She wasn't no Pinky. She wasn't that I'm gonna stop because I said I wasn't gonna tell on myself. But she wasn't no major bitch in porn, but she lost her job for doing porn. And so for me knowing that story, it kind of made this sketch a little bit more relevant and a little bit better than it probably had any right to be. Because I saw how plausible it was that somebody would be uncomfortable with a fictional television show painting them as a pervert if they had that sort of job, if they was a middle school teacher or a middle school principal. It very realistically could affect your career. They really could take you out of that position for something as trivial as that, because schools would do that. Schools would do that. Police departments would do that. A lot of people would do that. So I thought that was clever, even if they didn't mean to be clever. The next thing you had was Sam Smith. He did a song topping off this extremely gay night. Sam Smith, he knocked it out of the park. Sam Smith has a beautiful singing voice. Sam Smith's performance really made me think that this band Disclosure is really just a band, just a group of people who play musical instruments, and that it's not about a main or a lead singer, because they had two different vocalists in both segments. They had the female vocalist, who I don't know, and they had Sam Smith perform. And I thought the female vocalist was going to come back into the song, but she never did. It was just Sam Smith. And he sang beautifully, but it made me think that, okay, this is just a bunch of people who play musical instruments. But the last bit was the So Ghetto sketch, and they just joked on people who say the phrase "that was so ghetto," and Elizabeth Banks's character played a woman who literally lived in the ghetto and went through real life ghetto shit. And I felt like she stole a joke from either Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle, but I don't know. I felt like I heard that joke before, even though I couldn't place it. She did a joke about the landlord getting the rent late at night, and she inferred that the landlord would be getting the rent in the middle of the night to buy drugs. And I felt like either Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock or somebody did a joke similar to that, but I can't remember. I really can't remember where I heard it, but I know that I've heard that joke before. And there was another joke that I can't recall, but that was pretty much Saturday Night Live with Elizabeth Banks. That was really the themes of the show. That was what they talked about. If you made it through this 30-minute video about an hour show, then I give you all the credit in the world. Believe me, I'm trying to make these reviews and these analyses that I do of television much shorter. I know that I live in a Vine culture where everybody has a 6-second attention span, and they need everything delivered in an extremely fast manner. I'm sorry if I can't totally be accommodating to that, but I can try to go from maybe 30 minutes on an hour show to maybe 15 or 20, maybe try to get it in that range. But I got a lot to say about these subjects because I believe that, you know, that dummy box is trying to manipulate the minds of the masses, is trying to tell you what to think instead of doing the job that they have been entrusted with. And their job is to entertain you and entertain you well, not program you on what right is and wrong is, but just give you information and let you make up your own mind based on a balanced analysis of the facts. That's all I got to say about SNL with Elizabeth Banks. Let me know if you think that I got anything wrong. Leave it in the comments. Again, rate the video, subscribe to my channel. Let me know if there's anything you want to talk about. I'm trying to start conversations. I'm not an expert in any way. I'm just a broke man trying to find a career, trying to earn a living on YouTube, or, you know, through dialogue, through being in communications. And this is something that I'm trying out. This is something that I'm attempting. If you support this, you know, give me any feedback you can. Let me know anything you want me to know. And I'm here, and I'm going to keep making videos until I can't make them no more. And I am the Masked Man, and that's all I got to say about that. And I will see you in the next video.